when human beings are left long enough without spiritual guidance, without a messenger or a guide from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because of these addictions, they become shackled and their potential is reduced. One of the key functions of that messenger is to come and remove these shackles. It is to remove the myths and the superstitions that hold us from becoming who we really can. Today we live in the 21st century, but we are so driven by superstitions and myth. This is not unknown to you. We live in a very multicultural society here. We know of cultures where, for example, they will not purchase a home if you open the house door and there is a staircase in front. Right? We know of cultures, for example, that if you give them a clock, it's a bad omen, it's a sign of death. They will totally freak out if you give them a clock as a present. We know of cultures where if a black cat crosses in front of them, it's a bad luck or bad sign. And we are immigrants. We come from places where we are known how we fear so many things other than Allah. From shaitan to jinn to somebody writing a ta'weez, somebody doing this and that. These kind of things, superstitions, myths, addictions, attachments, these are the things that prevent us from progressing to our full potential. The Prophet comes to free us from this. And you will recall the analogy of the cave that we gave, where human beings were compared to prisoners in an underground cave staring at a blank wall, looking at shadows being thrown by a fire behind them, thinking this is reality. And it is a prophet who comes and removes those chains and shackles and brings us out of that cave to the open world and shows us what you were looking at was just shadows. This is the real world. Addictions do the same thing. They take us into that cave and they tie us in that chain and they hold us like that. And to explain this further, I borrow some verses of the Quran and I'm going to use that as an analogy. I'm not saying this is the tafsir of the verse. I'm saying I'm using these verses now as an analogy to explain this. What is it that an addiction and an attachment does to you? And these verses are actually from Surah Yasin, which is very familiar to us. Verses 7 to 10. لَقَدْ حَقَّ الْقَوْلُ عَلَيْهِمْ عَلَىٰ أَكْثَرِهِمْ فَهُمْ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ. The word has become due on them, so most of them will not believe. Most of them are caterpillars. Most of them would rather stay in the cave. إِنَّا جَعَلْنَا فِي أَعْنَاقِهِمْ أَغْلَالًا. We have placed chains, iron collars on their necks. فَهِيَ إِلَى الْأَذْقَانِ. So it is up to their chins. فَهُمْ مُقْمَحُونَ. So they cannot turn their heads. Remember that analogy of the cave. It's a perfect fit. Okay. وَجَعَلْنَا مِنْ بَيْنِ أَيْدِيهِمْ سَدًّا. Then we have placed a wall in front of them. وَمِنْ خَلْفِهِمْ سَدًّا. And behind them is a wall. فَأَغْشَيْنَاهُمْ. And then there is a blindfold on them. فَهُمْ لَا يُبْصِرُونَ. This is what addictions do to you. So when you have a chain, an iron collar on your neck up to your chin, and you can't turn your head, and then you have a wall here and a wall behind, and you're blindfolded, when will you see the truth? That is why, وَسَوَاءٌ عَلَيْهِمْ أَأَنذَرْتَهُمْ أَمْ لَمْ تُنذِرْهُمْ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ. That is why, O our dear Prophet, whether you warn them or you do not warn them, it is the same. It will make no difference. They will never believe. Meaning that when a person is completely tabi'ah driven, even if Allah was to send a messenger, even if He was to reveal a book, it will not make a difference. The first initiative has to come from us. We must be willing to remove that blindfold, to remove those chains, to say, I want to come out of that cave. When we're willing to hold the hand of that messenger and say, show me the truth. And to do that, we must be willing to let go of those addictions and those attachments. If one becomes addicted to tabi'ah, they will resist fitrah, even if they know this is good for them. They will not be able to come out of it. Just like one who is addicted to drugs. They know this is harmful. You don't have to tell them what is the harmfulness of this, because they have first-hand experience, but they cannot get out of it. They feel they're trapped in that. And the more they indulge in it, the worse it gets, the hungrier it becomes. Tabi'ah is this by nature, because it believes this is giving me pleasure. This is helping me flee from pain. This is what I need to survive, which is the characteristics of tabi'ah. So it is like when tabi'ah tries to satisfy a desire, it is like drinking salt water. The more you drink, the thirstier you become. Okay? However, we must remember that tabi'ah is not evil in itself. I will have to keep reminding you this again and again. Tabi'ah has a function. Its function is to regulate the needs of the body. Its function is to protect the body from harm. The reason why you instinctively fight or fly, fight or flee, somebody tries to hit you, you protect yourself. It's because tabi'ah's function is to safeguard the body and protect it from harm. Tabi'ah only becomes bad when it becomes excessive, when it becomes an obsession, when it becomes an addiction. That is when it turns evil. That is when it becomes zalim. That is when it becomes tyrannical. Okay? Shaheed Mutahari used to say about money, for example, money is an excellent servant but a very bad master. Money is an excellent servant but a very bad master. Tabi'ah is like that. If your fitrah can reign in your tabi'ah, it is an excellent servant. It will take you to new heights. But if it is left unreined and it becomes your master, then it is an evil master. Desire is not bad. We must not think I need to fight my desires. What I need to avoid is letting that desire become an obsession. If I had no desire within me, I would not seek knowledge. When I seek knowledge, it is a desire in me that makes me seek knowledge. It is a desire in me that makes me want to seek perfection. Even seeking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a result of desire. If man had no desire within him, he would not even seek his Lord. So desire in and of itself is not bad. It is only when it becomes an addiction that it becomes bad. An addiction is also a sign of unhappiness. And I know this puts our guards up. We think, I'm not unhappy. I know what I'm addicted to. I'm addicted to coffee, I'm addicted to cigarettes, I'm addicted to this and that, but I'm not unhappy. Addiction is a sign of unhappiness. One who is in love will not be addicted and will give up addictions very quickly. You see, what happens is the unhappiness is not necessarily very obvious to others or even to ourselves. It sort of simmers just below the surface. It is subliminal. And we know this why? Because of the way we treat our life. If I was fitra oriented, if I was not addicted, if I was in love with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then I would be so happy every morning that I woke up. I would be so happy to be alive. I would be grateful for life because I would see life as a gift from Allah. I would see my body as a vehicle that I'm using to evolve and develop my soul. I would cherish life. I would value my time because I'm fitra driven. I'm in love with Allah and I know I'm racing against time. I want to see how far I can fly during the time that Allah has given me in this world. But the way we treat our bodies and our lives, how do we treat it? We say, I'm not going to live forever anyway. I might as well enjoy myself. Right? Life is short. You know, how much am I going to do? I'm growing old now. So there is a sense of giving up on life. We take life for granted. We take our bodies for granted. It is almost, a psychologist might almost say that at some subliminal level, it is a form of suicide. We are saying, I really don't care if eating all this unhealthy food or smoking, kills me. Because, I'm fed up. It's the same routine, the same rat race, get up morning, night, struggling, going like a donkey around the mill, It has to end someday. That's the attitude we have to life. There is a sense of giving up. That is why I say addiction is a sign of unhappiness. We try to give up addictions. Everyone tries. But because the reason is not love, we fail to do so. Ask people who smoke how many times they have tried giving up and how many times they have failed. What was their reason? Their reason may have been, it's bad for health. My doctor says I should not smoke. My wife says I should not smoke. My friend has stopped smoking, so I want to try. Whatever the reason might be. Because it is for health, or because it is peer pressure, or because of some other reason, or my weight, or my health, or whatever, that is why it doesn't work. Because at some point I come back to the same question. If I'm doing it for my health, how long am I going to live? I might as well enjoy while I can. If I'm doing it because my wife says so, if I smoke when she's not around, she's not going to know, right? So the reason is quickly justified and dissolved. But if I fall in love, then the shackles fall apart. Now I don't have to find a reason. I don't have to try giving up the addiction. I just lose that addiction. There is no pleasure in that addiction because I have found something that gives me more pleasure. If you get pleasure from drinking coffee, it's very easy for you to give up tea because it is stronger, it has more pleasure. So if you become addicted to Allah, you will not have to try giving up the other addictions. They will simply fall apart. Now you might say, well, a young man who gets engaged and falls in love also doesn't feel like eating, gives up addictions quickly. If his beloved and sweetheart tells him, I'll only marry you if you give up smoking, he'll just throw the cigarette pack right away. Yes? The problem with using love with a creature to give up an addiction is that when you get to know someone or something very closely, you will also see their ugliness. That is why so many women complain to their husbands after marriage, you don't give me the gifts and say the nice things and the cards and the roses like you used to do when we were engaged. Right? When you get to know anything or anyone very closely, you will see its ugliness. Why? Because nothing is perfect. So the only thing that you can find that is perfect, that you can fall in love with, is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you can recite a salat ala Muhammad. Then the result of having fallen in love and placed all your hopes in this human being, she is going to make me happy. You put all your eggs in one basket and then you find out she's not the, my soulmate chosen for me or whatever that means, right? Then you revert back to the addiction slowly. And now it gets worse because you're even more depressed now. Unless, as an alternative, Allah has created beings that are perfect and you fall in love with one of them. Yes, fall in love with Hussein, you will not be disappointed. Fall in love with Ar-Rida, you will not be disappointed. Fall in love with Sahib al-Zaman, Imam al-Hujjah, ajalallahu ta'ala farajahu sharif. Muhammad. So the only solution to giving up your addictions is fall in love. And once you do that, then even your love for others will be for the sake of Allah. And when you love others for the sake of Allah, you will be more compassionate, more tolerant, less judgmental. You will see their flaws, but you will still love them. And you will learn that true love is not to love someone because they are perfect, but to love them despite their imperfection. Because that is how Allah loves you. Can you imagine if Allah or His Messenger or the Imam was to say, I will only love those who are perfect. But when they say we love our Shia, they know you are imperfect, but despite that they love you.